so easy to let that shot go way left, isn't it?
Oh, yes, when that ball's above your feet like that, everybody's inclined, because they got into a habit of gripping the club at the end, they do that and it makes them hook more. So when this ground, let's exaggerate it here. If you got that slope like that and you grip here, you're really going to hook it. So you've got to grip it right down the shaft like that, which makes it a little bit more level for you, and allow for the slope, which, here's a great tip. Whichever way the ground slopes, the ball will go. Right to left, the ball will go right to left. If I'm playing this direction, the ground is sloping left to right, the ball will go left to right. If I'm playing up the hill, the ball's going to go high, so you take more club. If you're going this way, downhill, the ball's going to go lower, and you take less club. The thing I can say when you're playing in the rough, they always hook the ball out of the rough because the grass catches the club and turns the toe over, always. So you've got to grip very, very tightly with those last 3 fingers in your left hand. And I think you should address the ball with your club face slightly open because it turns it over. So this is going to help to prevent it turning over, and having the club face open, when it does turn it, it sort of turns it back to square. Then, make sure that you pick the club up a little quicker because you want to get the club out of the grass and keep it out of the grass with a descending blow as much as possible. If you dragged it back, you're going to catch the grass, and if you come through low, it's going to catch it even worse. And then, the final thought is get through the ball. So, slightly open club face there. Now I've got to carry this over water. Slightly open club face there, gripping tight with that. Now make sure, my last thought is get through. Now that for me, that's the best I can do. Put it on the front edge of the green.
Position at the same time, avoid the worst thing, which is to hit it heavy. All right, we'd rather, when we hit the shot, hit it a little bit thin or pick it out because it'll go farther and we won't, bury the club into the ground. The second thing is it tends to go left a little bit because of the slope and because of the club head rotation. So I want you to feel as though you're aimed a little bit more to the right of the target and allow the ball to come back to the left. All right, so set up, bend your knees a little bit more, let your upper body come up more so it's more parallel with the slope itself. Then what I want you to do is I want you to choke up just a little bit. That'll avoid catching a little heavy. And aim just a touch to the right, then hold the face just a little bit open. Okay? Then when you swing, you actually swing and try to cut the ball up the slope. At the same time, we're going to just try to get the club to go right across the top of the grass. Okay? Matt, I want you to come in now. So when we're hitting all these shots, we've got to remember those 2 factors. What's the slope and what's gravity going to do? Because it's going to be an extra thing that we're not paying attention to. So in an uphill lie, what club do you use there, Matt?
This is a 9-iron.
All right. We're just learning our training right here, how to work with easy or short little shots. I want you all to do that first because I want you to get a feeling for what kind of movements you need to make and how to make these adjustments before you go to a full-length club and at full speed. Anytime you practice, I want you to think about doing it first at slow speed with a shorter club so it gets the feeling of it, control all the technical elements, and then gradually increase not only the speed, but also the length of the club. So when I set up to this shot, I do a couple things different than I do in my normal shots. The first thing is, I'm not going to take as wide a stance because the wider my stance, the more gravity is going to pull me backwards when I swing. And what that's going to do is get the club face up underneath the ball that's going to give me that kind of ballooning shot or the one that goes way up in the air, the kind of semi-pop-up. So I'm going to pull my right foot in more. That's going to position my weight and my shoulders, my upper body, a little more into the slope. Now, what I have to be careful of when I do that is that I don't take a swing and dig it into the hill, because I need to be able to get good solid contact with the ball and yet get the club head to go into the finish. So when I set up, bring my right foot in a little more, then I'm going to pitch my shoulders but not my hips. See, if I pitch my hips, now my body weight's back to my right foot again. So I'm going to pitch my shoulders a little bit, and then what I'm going to do is make what I feel is like a long, gradual chip shot trying to control 2 factors. how far ahead my hand or wrist position is, which is going to give me the trajectory, and also going up the slope a little bit. Here's my practice swing. Here, I'm going to move to my left, and then I'm going to try to go right across the top of the grass. Now notice my foot position and my knee position. That's moving me up the slope, so when I finish, my body weight is actually moved up the slope to its left side. Now I'm going to do that real slow, just hit it like a long chip shot here. And you notice there I was able to make that movement and not take a divot. Now that's the first thing I want you to work on so that we get the right kind of contact and the right trajectory. Come on in. Use more club than you need. Bring your right foot in closer to your left. When you do that, the shoulder position is now going to be critical to angling up the slope instead of in the slope. So you set up like this and then get your shoulders to tilt a little bit to the slope. Don't tilt your hips at the same time or your body weight will get back on your right foot. Then when you do that, make a slow practice swing, feel the slope and your foot movement to the left, so that when you finish, you're on your left side and your wrist is slightly ahead of the club face like it was at address. If you're making your swings too big and fast, you end up back this way, club head's going to end up going past your wrist, and that ball's going to shoot straight up in the air. And that's not going to get you very close to the hole. Channel Academy. Matt and I are here with some downhill lies. I find this one and actually the ball below my feet is the two most difficult ones to play. This one because it's so hard to get the ball airborne and at the same time not feel like I'm going to fall over. So when I'm swinging, I've got to pay particular attention on getting my balance so that I don't feel like when I go at full speed that my upper body is going to fall over or actually slide, you know, past impact. So take a couple practice swings, and I recommend this all the time. When you get in the funny lies, first find your balance, then take a few practice swings, get used to two things. What angle do you need to swing across that slope, whatever it is, and two, how does the slope and gravity affect your balance? And you need to really test those all the time because the difference in the slopes will also change the feeling that you get. So just because it's uphill doesn't mean that it's always going to feel the same, or in this case, just because it's downhill. A steeper downhill slope will require a different adjustment in balance and positioning. So we want to get all those things out of the way first before we actually make the shot. His right hip is actually too high, like this, and he's trying to ride underneath it. What we want to try to do is get this foot more behind you, back this way, kind of out of the way, so that when you're set up, this right foot isn't pushing up this right hip. Once we get it back out of the way this way, now I can get my shoulders to angle a little bit more up, like that, which will help me get a little bit of lift, but I don't want to do too much of that because if I get too much lift, I'm going to come up and I'm going to top the ball. So I want to get set up where the downhill foot is supporting my swing. Then set my shoulder angle a little bit, slightly this way, and then try to follow the slope with the club head. So typically, the ball below the feet is one of the most difficult side hill lie shots to hit. The hardest part is your body has to be back this way, kind of leaning back into the slope a little bit so that you don't fall over. At the same time, it feels hard to get the club down to the ground because when you sit back like this, it feels like you're going to top everything. All right? So what you want to do is we need to bend the knees more. Go ahead and take your normal setup position. All right? And you're going to be kind of top heavy here. See if I push him this way, he wants to fight it a little bit. Now bend your knees just a touch more. That's it. And to counterbalance that a little bit, you can actually pull your upper body up just a hair. Then you'll be set better. That's right. Now, the second factor that we can do is as you set up to it, instead of setting the face square, set the face just a little bit closed, and that's going to help keep the ball on line. And lastly, we want to use a club just like some of the others, where instead of a 7-iron, I use a 6-iron or a 5-iron to keep the what down, Matt?
Gravity.
No, wrong answer. The speed. See, Matt's got a speed problem. You've got to keep the speed of the swing down. What happens if you swing faster?
You hit it fat.
Fat, or you fall off balance. Either one of those is what's going to cause a problem. So we keep the speed down by using a little bit more club in these unusual lie situations. That's almost a standard or a given, okay?
When I have a severe lie, whether it be uphill, downhill, or side hill, I try not to hit a full shot. I try to hit something that I'm going to be able to control a little better with less than a full swing. For a number of reasons. Number one, the biggest thing being keeping the ball under control. So I feel like if I hit it less than full, I can control the ball better. It's not going to curve as much. I can keep it where I want it to easier. So this downhill shot, even though it's probably a sand wedge distance, I'm going to hit a pitching wedge. I'm going to play it way back in my stance. The ball's going to go very low, and so I'm going to allow room for it to hit and take a hop. Where the pin is today is the back of the green. Being long is dead, and there's a lot of room short, so I'm going to think about flying at about 15 feet short of the hole, and then let it take it one hop, hopefully up to near where the cup is. So it's against the back of the stance, just a low 3/4 pitching wedge.
Because of a decidedly average tee shot, and that looks like it might be quick coming out of there. This is a classic sort of a downhill, and this is the lie that people tend to, you know, you're always afraid to shank it because if it's a short iron, something like that, because you sort of feel like you're going to fall over on top of it. So, you know, people get further away. You know, you back further up, which only makes your weight go more toward your toes. So really with this shot, you want to actually stand about a ½ inch closer, you know, to where you can get your weight back on your heels a little bit. You know, normalize your stance, just stand a little bit closer to the ball. It's a game of opposites. Try and force this one out and run it up.
Go for it right at that anyway, so I'm going to try and hit it on the front right of the green. 225 with my rescue club, which is right about the right distance. And the fact that it's not sitting real well is going to make me hit down on a little bit, try hit a little bit of a cut. So all the variables are right. Now it's just trying to execute it, stay down with the shot, not try and lift it out of the lie at all.